Let's talk about tiny house prices. Way back in the day when I first got involved with tiny houses, the typical tiny house size was like 16 feet, 18 feet, really, really small. And in 2017, 2018, it's very common to see tiny houses that are 35, 40 feet long. And I think the reason we've seen that is that as tiny houses have gained in popularity, they've kind of reached critical mass. I don't even know if it's the right thing to say, but they've reached like a much larger segment of the population, much larger audience. And there's a big portion of that audience that is interested in tiny houses that are not interested in living in a 16 to 18 foot tiny house. And on the other hand, there still is a big part of people that are interested in tiny houses that are fine with living in that size tiny house. The tiny house that I'm in now is my father's, that is 28 feet long, and the price of this tiny house was $26,000, brand new. But for whatever reason, so often on any time I post a tiny house for sale or on Instagram or YouTube, people say things like, tiny house movement was originally founded to provide housing for people that wanted a very, very cheap alternative style of living. The funny thing is, the same holds true for 2018. The difference is, a lot of tiny house builders have noticed that what people want, a lot of people want, are high-end tiny houses that they can live in comfortably with like high-end furnishings and things like that, and appliances, stainless steel, all that stuff, which adds up quickly to the total price of a tiny house. And also, the majority of tiny houses that tend to get shared are the most beautiful ones. Let's be honest. The reason is they're beautiful and they're very shareable and they can go viral and things like that. But that definitely doesn't mean by any stretch that tiny houses on a budget are not available. I'm sitting in one right now that costs $26,000, brand new. Just another example, here is a picture of a tiny house that's currently for sale on tiny house listings that cost $12,000. And here is a picture of a tiny house on tiny house listings that costs $80,000. And don't get it wrong, there are tiny houses for sale right now that people are building or that have already built or that are just for sale that are pretty much every price point in between those two extremes. And if you want to keep things even cheaper, you can build the tiny house yourself. But if you're like the vast majority of people that want a tiny house built for them professionally or even certified and things like that, you can have one built for you by a tiny house builder. And there are tiny house builders that will accommodate your budget, given it's reasonable, pretty much any budget you have. And there's also tiny houses for sale on tiny house listings that are pretty much any price point between those two extremes. So the main reason I made this video is I don't want people to think that tiny houses are getting to a price point where they're out of reach for people who originally thought that they could get one for super, super cheap. You absolutely can. And if you don't think you can, email me at support@tinyhouselistings.com. And we'll see what we can do to find a tiny house that's for sale or a builder that can build one for you in that price point. There's just like, I guess it's a lie or a facade or I don't know, whatever it is, that there's this belief that someone's perpetuating that tiny houses have all become super expensive and they're ridiculously priced and you can't buy one anymore. That's just simply not true. Yeah, so anyways, let me know what you think about this video, what your thoughts are. There's tiny houses out there for you depending on whatever your budget is. There's someone out there or there's one for sale that will fit your price point. So thanks for watching. See you on the next video. Hey Dad, do you feel like you got a good deal on your tiny house?
Absolutely.
You think it's worth $26,000?
Absolutely.
Do you think anyone should be discouraged because they think that tiny houses are too expensive?
No, sir. That's washer, dryer, trailer, wheels, hot water heater, sink, refrigerator, closets, chandeliers, electric fans,
labor.
AC. Huh?
Labor?
Labor. Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
It goes on and on.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, sir.
See you on the next video.
Cheap living.